Hi, this is Carl, and this is another SOP video for managed service providers. Last time we talked about list building and what kind of lists you need. This is part 2. I'm going to talk a little bit about growing your list. There's something called an organic mailing list, and basically this is a list that has naturally grown of its own. So this includes your clients and the people who have invited you to various things, the people who've asked you to come into their office and give them a quote on something or do a network analysis. Those are organic because you had a very natural contact with them, and so you get to just put them onto your list, and it makes sense, and it makes sense to them, and nobody's going to be offended. If you download a list that you bought off the internet and you have a 10,000 email list that you suddenly start sending email to, that's not organic. It might not even be legal. Those people are complete strangers and they don't even know why they're getting this email from you. So that's not a high quality list. So the larger you can grow your organic list, the better. So how do we grow the organic component of our lists? My favorite way of growing a list is lunch and learns. I like to put on events and then invite people to it, and then once they engage in that, then they're going to bring some friends, or they might go to one event after another. I've had many people who became clients only after they attended several lunch and learn events. Now, what does that look like? I'll give you a perfect example. A while back, when we were a Microsoft certified partner, we engaged in a program where Microsoft said, hey, if you meet these requirements, we'll give you $2,500 to put on an event. And what they had in their head was we were going to put on a big seminar, and we're going to invite 1,000 people, and we're going to have giveaways and whatever. In fact, we said, no, we don't want to do that. I'm going to go and get a very targeted list, and I'm going to put on dinner at a very nice restaurant for about 25 people, and I'm going to spend about $100 a piece. And obviously we threw in some of our own money into that as well. So we had this pretty good gathering, and it was a reasonably small group of people. We're buying them a steak dinner at a great restaurant. So we had a perfect turnout, high quality attendees, and we made our little spiel at the end and got a couple of clients out of the deal. Now, that's a group that I feel very comfortable that I can put them on my list, and they're going to be very happy. They're going to want to hear from me for quite a while because I bought them this nice steak dinner. So that's just one little example. But we were always putting on events for end users that were about, here's an introduction, for example, to cloud computing. Here's an introduction to antivirus. Here's an introduction to basic security, that sort of thing. When you put on events, you are automatically the person who is known to be an expert. You're the person in the front of the room giving all the great advice and all the great tips. With luck, you'll have some handouts that have your name across the bottom and your contact information, and an offer for a free network analysis or whatever your offer might be. Another thing to do is to talk at other people's events. So there's so many service clubs all across the world that you could go to, and that whether it's Kiwanis, Rotary, so forth and so on, they have to meet once a month or once a week, and they have to have a program. So they're eager to have somebody stand up, and you're so lucky that you're in computers and technology, because everybody always wants to hear about how we can stay safe and how we can save money and all this other stuff. There's so many great topics that you can speak on, and again, you're in front of the crowd, you're obviously the expert, people are going to talk to you afterwards, and you're going to collect those business cards and grow your list. Another great way to grow your list is simple networking. Basically, go to events, go to the chamber events, go to BNI events, go to different groups where you can meet new people, and don't try to sell them. It's, the worst thing you can do is try to sell somebody at a networking event. It's not called a sales event. They don't want people walking around with contracts. Don't try to sell. Instead, have a conversation. Exchange business cards, ask them about their kids and their hobbies and how they got involved in that organization and how long they've lived in this town and whatever. talk about them as human beings, then write on the back of their card where you met them, what you talked about, and where you might engage in business. Right? That way you can contact them again. Once you contact them, then it's going to be okay to add them to your list. Another great way to grow your list is to have a newsletter and have it regular. So don't put out a newsletter and then have another one 6 months later. No one will remember that there ever was a first newsletter. Put it out on a regular basis, every week, every month, whatever it is, so that people expect it and look for it. Now, how do you get people to open your newsletter? Well, here's an important safety tip. Make it interesting and make it valuable. One of the things I always used to love about putting out newsletters is I would always have these lists of, here are the hotkeys you can use in Excel to move around or to manipulate. Here are the hotkeys that you can use in Word. Here are the hotkeys you can use in Windows, right? Here's all these things you can do. People never use those things, but they love them. And they always would say, oh, this is so amazing. And they would cut it out and put it on their bulletin board and never use those hotkeys. But it didn't matter. They had a perception that that was useful and interesting, and so they would keep it. And from time to time, I would find pieces of my newsletter literally cut out and posted on people's bulletin boards. That's how you know it's interesting and valuable. And when it's interesting and valuable, people will open it again and again. Now, what's a good open rate? Well, here's the problem. If you're just getting started and you're kind of a stranger, the open rate might be 1%, 2%, 3%. If you've got a phenomenal open rate, like over the top, ridiculous open rate is going to be 10 to 15%. And if you're super, super lucky, you might reach 20%. So that means for every time you put out a newsletter, 80% of the people are never going to open it no matter what. And that's just reality. But they're going to see your name, they're going to see your company, they're going to see that you're active, right? And as long as they never remove themselves from that list, you've still got that contact where once a week or once a month, this newsletter shows up in their mailbox and they delete it. And even if they don't open it, that contact has been made. So you're getting name recognition, and believe it or not, it's doing you some good even if people don't open it, as long as they don't remove themselves from the list. Every once in a while, you can grow your list in an inorganic way. So an inorganic growth would be literally buying a bunch of names and adding them to your list. So you have to be careful with that, because talking to strangers is different than talking to friends. So for the most part, if you can grow your organic list, that's where you're going to get the greatest value. But it takes work. It means you have to go out and speak at clubs and organizations. It means that you have to go to networking events. It means you have to take some effort to go and meet people. But engaging in the community is a great way to grow your list. For Small Biz Thoughts, this is Carl Palachuk wishing you the best of luck in your managed service business.